Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and in this one I'm going to talk about one of these, a December daily. Now this video sits within the list of journals I'm creating for the beginner, and what I want to do is show you an absolute beginner's journal for a December daily. Now this was my first ever December daily. When I made it, I learned a lot of things about making a December daily, which I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to keep it as easy and simple as basic, with as few bits of equipment and materials as I can, just because this may be your first make. I keep them really quite sparse because part of the enjoyment of doing a December daily is actually to decorate it as you go. Put the bases in there, put the tags in there, put tuck spots and everything, but you don't need to embellish them until it comes to the day. So I'm going to make one of these with you. As I said, we're going to keep it as basic as I possibly can. It's going to look different to this one, obviously. And hopefully it'll just inspire you to have a go and make one of your own. Some people love them. Some people use them just as a diary to actually plan what they've done. Some plan ahead and use this as their planner for the Christmas month, for Christmas shopping, mailing, baking, stuff like that. It's whatever you want to do. For me, it was just recording the month of December to build up the ambience and the excitements leading towards Christmas, because the way the year goes by, Christmas comes at you and before you know it, it's Christmas Day and you've missed the whole excitement of it. So that's where one of these worked for me. Okay, right, let's get on and get started. So first thing I need to do is I need to get some 12 by 12s. So I've been through some 12 by 12 pads from last year and I pulled these two out. Now I like to have double thickness for my journal covers because yes, this is quite firm, but I'd rather have double the thickness because it makes it a little more robust. Now this is a non-directional pattern, so I'm going to cut them both at the same time. Now I like to cut my journal covers at 9 by 12. I think it's because I used to live in America. In America, most of their journal covers as a standard are 9 by 12, and I think that's actually designated by their paper size. Right, I need to remember 9. I nearly did that wrong. I wonder which end I want. Maybe I'll cut this off. So it's just trying to remember the orientation. So right, so if I do it this way. Now this I'm going to keep because this could become pockets on the inside. It could become tags. It could become something. So I keep everything I cut off, I keep because I can utilize it. And when I'm doing a December daily, as I'm cutting stuff off, I put it into a basket or a box or something or a tray. And then as I'm doing my December daily throughout December, I can reach there for the scraps to use. So let's just put my big old guillotine down. So this now gives me my outside and my inside. Now I like to do things slightly differently. I like to score before I glue. So here's my scoreboard. So I'm going to score at 6 inches, obviously, because that's the halfway mark. Now the rule of thumb I go by is if I push into the card, which compresses the fibers, I then bend it so that the valley becomes a mountain. So I'm going to run that down there, back up again, and that gives me valley becomes a mountain. So that's my outside. I'm going to do exactly the same with my inside. Valley becomes a mountain. Now if you've been watching the videos in this playlist, a lot of this is going to look really familiar to you because we've done it a lot already. And that's the one thing about journaling is a lot of the processes to make a journal are repetitious. However, once you've made the journal, it's the uniqueness comes from the signatures and the pages and new stuff in between. Now, the reason I like to fold before I glue is, I don't know whether you can see that, there is actually a bit of an overhang. And that's due to the thickness of the card pushing out. I then like to cut that off So I will cut that off once I've completely glued, and I'm going to sew mine. So once I've done all that, I will actually then get that sorted out. Now, depending on whether you're stitching or not, and you don't have to sew, guys, you do not have to sew. That's completely something I want to do in this journal. So I'll just grab a bit of glue paper. I'm just going to use a regular glue stick to adhere the two halves together. You can use bookbinding glue, you can use anything you want. What I would say though is make sure you get the edges of your cover glued all the way to the corners, because that's where you're going to run into trouble if you run into trouble anywhere. And that's probably why I put Tim Holtz corners on. So what I like to do is I like to put the glue on, stand that up, make sure it's completely lined up, press as far into the spine as I can, and then I'm going to give this a good press down. Now you can come in with your credit card or your room key or whatever and just smooth the glue out, and you don't have to use a glue stick. You could use PVA glue, you could use bookbinding glue. I've even seen some people do this with what do you call it? Can't think of a second. Double-sided tape. Okay, now I've got that bit done, I'm going to take this out of the way because I know I'm going to stick with it. Let's get a bit of this instead. Bear with me, just trying to grab it. I'm just trying to have something so I only get glue on here and not on my mat, because I just bought a new mat and I'd rather not get it all gluey. Now there are other things you can do with your cover as well, which I won't be doing in this video, but I will definitely talk about it. If you want your cover, if you think it needs protecting, you can always brush it with Mod Podge, and I'll show you that in a minute if you're not familiar with that. So once I've done this, I close this one over the top because I want my book to lay flat. And I find that if I do the two sides first and then put the fold in, sometimes it bows. Right. So I'm going to sit this to one side just to dry up a little bit. Lid of my glue because I'm notorious for forgetting that. Get out my damp cloth to get the glue off here because I know what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to put something on top of it. So, right, let's look at this Mod Podge then. Where are you? There you go. So this is Mod Podge. It's a glue, it's a sealer, it's a finish, it's water-based. You can wash your brushes out afterwards. And what I would do normally is, if I chose to protect this, I would brush this all over the outside, sometimes the inside as well. I don't know whether I'm going to do that with this one because it is purely just for me. It does add a layer of protection. It does mean it gets less damage and less marked. It gives it almost like a leathery feel to it. So that is something you can do. So know that that's something you can do if you choose. So, right, where's that guillotine gone? So I'm just going to come in now and I'm just going to take off the merest edges of this. Just that edge where it overlaps slightly. And it is just the teeniest little bit. But me being someone who's a touch OCD, I can't be seeing it. I need it to be good. There you go. Right, that's all out the way. So now that I've got this part done, I'm going to actually pause the camera and I'm going to run my sewing machine around this, and I'm just going to do... So here I am back again. It's all sewn. I just used a small straight stitch. I did it in white and therefore it's all nicely sealed up. Just in case it was to come unglued, but if you put enough glue, or depending on the type of glue, shouldn't have a problem. I forgot to say at the beginning of this, guys, this is just my version of making a December daily. There are umpteen other people out there who make them, and they will make them in a variety of different ways, and I do encourage you to shop around, look around at loads of different people. As you know, Gail Augustinelli is a very close friend of mine, and she does journals almost on a weekly basis. I would definitely encourage looking at her. Nick the Booksmith is another. Just umpteen. If you just put in journal making into YouTube, you'll probably find at least 1,000 different makes out there. this is just my quick and easy way of doing it because I'm trying to encourage newbies to actually be able to create a journal they're going to be proud of. So this bit is done. Now I did decide while I was sewing this that I am going to put book corners on. Now these book corners are not Tim Holtz. They're just ones I picked up on the internet on eBay. I always look for the ones that look like this. Can you see that? That have got this sort of wedge shape, because it means when I pinch that down it'll fit whatever type of thickness I put in there, as long as it's not too thick. You can get them in different thicknesses to fit different book covers. I do have some others that I use for recycled books, but these are the ones I normally use for my general journals, and I believe the Tim Holtz ones are very similar. So I'm just going to put these on. I've chosen to put this colour on because silver just didn't look right to me. So I'm going to have a bit of a book here just to protect my work surface, and I'm using Fabri-Tac for this. So what I do is I come in, we'll do the back ones first, and I put a little bit of the Fabri-Tac down inside here, just so it's got a little bit of a grip. Don't put too much in there, you don't need it. I'm going to slip the corner all the way into the corner itself, press it down with my thumb, press it down with the thumb, and then I'm going to come in. I've got a pair of small pliers here. I'm just going to pinch it along the length of it, just to make sure it's fully gripped on. Last one, and then we're going to start looking and talking about signatures, choices of paper, making a mundane page look not like a mundane page, to be honest with you. Right, so there's the front. I think that was the front, right. So book cover is, journal cover is now done. Now I know at this point you're probably asking, Ceri, why haven't you put anything on the front? In my original one, when I made my very first one, I did. I immediately put something on the front, but I've learned since something that's really nice to do is I do the cover last. So I'll use the December daily all the way through December. And then the very last thing I do is I create the cover. And I do it that way because sometimes I receive some incredible Christmas cards, some beautiful little thank you notes and stuff. And if I've already decorated the cover, then I've got nobody to use those except inside. And to find the cover at the end of December is far easier than to find it at the beginning of December. So I leave my cover naked. I have no problem with a naked cover anyway. And then I can come in later and put the front on it when I find the right card, because I do tend to use greetings cards for the front of my cover, or you may use a special piece of ephemera to put on the cover. Completely up to you. Right, let's put the cover to one side and start talking about some papers and what I will make the signature from. Now, a signature is the folded pieces of paper that make up the inside of the journal, and that's called a signature. So I usually use about 15 pages, and that will give you more than enough, because if you reckon, if this is one page, when you fold it in half, it becomes 2 pages, but it has 4 sides. So if I have 15 pages in there, that's 30 sides, and then I fold them in half. That gives me 60 sides within a journal. That's more than enough, I think, for a December daily. So things I've pulled out. Regular graph paper. Just be aware, try not to go for paper that's too thin, because you're going to be in and out of this one quite a lot. I used to use magazine pages, as you've seen in my other journal. However, I found the magazine pages tore quite easily. If, however, you've got recipes from a cookbook, they make great pages because they're thicker. I've got just regular paper that I buy by the ream. I've got some coffee dyed paper. I found this brown paper sack. I'm probably going to stick something on the front of that, fold that, snip down this edge, and that will give me something else in here. Music paper is a favourite of mine, although I do have one slight bugbear, and I'll tell you about it in a moment. But things like music paper folded in half, not all the pages in the signature have to be exactly the same size. You can vary them in size, that's not a problem. If I'm using a bit of music paper, like this is out of a music book, and I've just got those up the side, that's fine, I can live with that. I personally struggle when I've got pages that have got words written on them, because then the words are vertical instead of horizontal. For some reason, my eye doesn't mind seeing music stays vertical. So that's something to think about. If, however, you can find a music book that's actually stapled together, when you unstaple it, of course, you've already got the page for a signature, although this will need cutting down, and that's what we need to do next. And then another thing I like to use is envelopes, and I'll show you a trick that I use for putting envelopes into a signature and making them into a pocket, or pockets, should we say. So let's put that one to one side. I'm going to look at doing papers in a moment as far as decorating them. The first thing I need to know is I want to actually make sure they're all cut to the right size. So let's pull out the old trimmer again, or should I call it my guillotine. Now we know the height of our cover is 9 inches. I very rarely do anything that's 9 inches tall. My pages, this is a standard British A4 paper, is 8 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep to that as the depth of my page. Okay, now we know that the width of the page is going to be just past 11 1/2. So I can play around with those dimensions. So 8 1/4 is what I'm going to do first of all. So I know my page is 8 1/4 tall, so I'm going to make this 8 1/4 tall. I don't mind it having the titles at the top, but I just want to see how much I'm going to have left. What happens if I cut this side off? Actually, let's cut the titles off this. For no other reason than that'll just make it music. Keep things like this. This goes straight into the scrap bin because we may be using bits of music paper on other stuff as we go. Right, so this is now the correct height, which is 8 1/4. I'm going to take these two down to 8 1/4. I want to keep the music, so oops, if I want to keep the music, it needs to be that way around. Wait, am I doing this right? No, I'm not. This folds this way, so it needs to be. Yeah, keep track of your orientation, guys. As you've just seen, it's easily done. So my page will be that way off. That's what I need to remember. So we need to do the same with this one. Yeah, this is the bit, because I'm a bit mathematically challenged some days. So trying to keep track of widths, heights and everything is a bit struggle. These I already know are the right height. I've got a feeling this is as well, because it's a standard British. Yeah, right. So now we know that our pages are just shy of 11 1/2. So I'm now going to work on, these are the right size. This one is going to need to be cut down. How wide is my journal cover? My journal cover should be 6. It is 6. So if I make this 5 and let's do 5 3/4, because of course this one is already folded. So these two need to be cut down, and I'm going to cut them both at the same time, and these are going to be just shy of 11 1/2. Actually, I can probably leave them as they are because they look pretty much the right height to me. I think all the papers are the right size. Okay, that was easier than I thought that was going to be. Again, right, these little bits are going to go in the trash. These little bits are going to go into my scrap pile, which is stuff I'm going to use to decorate. So we've got music pages. So all it is now is just to fold these in half. I'm going to show you some that I've decorated up and how I decorated them up, because that's important. But I'm not going to put the signature together yet. I'm just going to fold them. Now, another thing you may wonder is, why don't I bundle them all together and fold them all at the same time? If you do that, the middle pages don't, they don't move out from the center. When you stack pages in, you're going to find that the width of the signature is going to grow. It won't grow evenly if you just get 15 sheets of paper and fold it in half. Although if you do individual ones, it'll grow evenly out from its center. Am I in shot? I am in shot, right, okay. Right. Now, I have put graph paper in here, but you need to be aware that this graph paper is a lot lighter than any other graph paper any other paper in the journal. So it could tear if you're not careful with it. Right, there's some of my pages done. I'll put those to one side. Right, actually, what we've got this in front of us, let's address this one. So, I can use some music paper. I can tickle this up in some way if I wish. Let's see. That's about the right way on. So I could come in. Actually, if I take a torn edge off here. I put that down there. Now we need to remember that one side is sticking out the back and the other has signature, one side sticking out the other side. So I'm just going to come in and give that a crease so I know roughly where the centre of my bag is. So if I stick that down there, I've got no issues there. Right, let's just get my glue stick out. Where did I put it? There you go. Now, remember, we are not at this point fully decorating our pages. Oh, I like that side better actually. Let's glue that side on. We are not fully decorating our pages because, as I said, I find that I personally like to decorate them as I'm going through, because if I've already got everything decorated and I've got a few name stickers and labels and little tags and stuff I want to put on them, it's too late because I've already covered stuff up. Right, put it on there. This also helps to reinforce the bag a bit. Now, I wouldn't normally cut this when wet, however I'm going to now because I'm making a video and I want it done without sticking everything and having to leave for it to wait and stick to each other. Right, so that's those two done. So I've got that side of the signature done. I now need to look at this side. Do I want music on that side? Now, whatever I do on this side is going to have to go quite far out, because of course I'm going to have to cut this edge off to make it into a pocket to be on the opposite side. Well, that would be Biscuit and the flipping postman again. Have you noticed every time I make a video, Biscuit starts barking? But never mind, I'm not going to complain because I love him dearly. I think what I'm going to do is I've got some Christmas paper here, and I think I'm going to put a bit of Christmas paper down there. So if I just tear this down. Now, Christmas paper, it's not advisable to use Christmas paper as a page in your journal. And that's a personal view. I'm sure some will disagree with that. However, I find that if I use Christmas paper in my journal as a signature page, it's just not strong enough. You can see how easily this tears here. It's just not strong enough to do the job as far as I'm concerned. Right, and I don't mind a slight overlap at the crease. So let's get this one stuck down as well. Now, when you're gluing, what's this called? Wrapping paper, be aware it's not a substantial paper. So treat it with a little bit more respect, or else you're going to hit a problem. It's just going to tear on you. I tend to use a glue stick for everything in a journal that's not fabric or jewellery or something like that. And I don't have a problem. But as you can see, I am quite liberal with my application of glue. I think that's about right. Look vertical, doesn't look vertical to me. Trying to do this without looking down through the camera is a bit tricky, guys. Right, got that on there. Let's get a store card. Just smooth that out so it's fully in contact. Now, this is fully intended to be decorated further. However, I've just laid the base in for it. It's like if I'm doing a travel journal, say I'm going on holiday, which I am next year actually. I've got a holiday planned and I will be making a journal for that holiday. And what I do is I pre-populate quite a few of the pages, and by pre-populating them, I mean I put stuff on the pages already that are within the theme of the journal, and that's where this idea came from me. So I know that I now need to cut this edge off because it's going to become a pocket. Yeah, make sure it opens far enough. It does. There you go. So that's ready to go. Just need to let that dry now, and that'll be ready to be folded and also sewn into the signature. We have to put the signature pages up. There they are. So, right, we're slamming along with that. Now, my aim in this video is to try and do the journal, make some basic ephemera stuff to go into it, like tucks and pockets and things like that, so that you've got an idea of how to construct an entire journal that's good for a December daily. Sorry, the glue stuck on my mat there. I'm a bit precious about my mats when I have a brand new one. And then within about 2 weeks, I'm like, yeah, it's a Mac. Get on with it, Griffiths. So let's look at what I've done with some of the other pages. Now, you've just seen me use gift wrap. And this is just, that's the graph paper. And all I've done is I've torn strips of Christmas paper, exactly like this, and I've glued it down with my glue stick. And on one end, I actually wrapped it round that end because it was a nice end. But what this does is it fortifies the pages. It really just makes them a little more robust. So that's another page that's going into my journal. And as you can see, that really adds something to a journal page. So that's another one to be added. This one, as you can see, and it's just general. Here you go, guys. These are just rolls of Christmas wrap that I had left over from last year. So I put a strip down the middle of this one because obviously if it's down the middle and I fold it, I then get a nice little margin down the edge of each page. See, it's just enough to bring something to life. That's another journal page done. This one again, I've just put it down one side, and on the opposite side, I put another one down. So I'll fold this. It just carries themes through. It also means that you don't just have blank pages. See, now, so if I'm looking into this journal, periodically these are going to pop up, which is wonderful and actually has pre-populated. Right, we'll talk about that one in a moment. But even on coffee dyed paper, there you go, just a strip of the Christmas wrap on it, and it tickles it up and it looks wonderful. And here again, I've done it. I haven't even gone all the way down to the base of this one. Actually, let's fold it this way because I'm folding everything with the Christmas wrap on the outside at the moment. So when I come to this page, it's already started for me. Now this one is the opposite to the first one I showed you. Remember I said with the graph paper it can be a bit flimsy. Putting it down the edge was just fine. Putting it down the middle, however, really does fortify the spine of it, where I'm going to sew it into the cover itself. So just do that. So see, that just adds a really nice thing. It can still be written on, still glue stuff onto it. So that's how I would use gift wrap to actually make these pages a bit more special. Now, how have I done this one? This one, let me go and get it. This one I'm actually going to do for you because it's a bit of a different technique and I want to make sure we're fully aware of what I'm doing. Okay, this is my regular piece of paper as this was here. So this is what we're aiming for because, just fold it this way, because just using that will add something absolutely beautiful to these pages when they're opened. So what I've used is gift wrap tissue. Now, I bought this in my local supermarket. Was it a supermarket or stationer's? I can't remember whether it's supermarket or Double H Smith's, to be honest. And ironically, even folded, it's not a million miles different in the height. So all I did was I just tore down the strips. So I've got pieces, and I'm going to put one piece on the end of each end of this. Now, it's kind of important to note at this point that this is tissue paper, okay? Gift wrap tissue paper. And actually it's sticking to itself, so it's a lot thinner than I thought it was going to be. There you go. I've got far too many layers of it here. You get an excessive amount of this, I can assure you. You could cover your entire piece of paper with it if you so chose. So what I do now is, it's very tricky to glue this, but it's not tricky to glue that. So what I'm going to do is I lay my piece of paper that I'm going to glue, and then I lay my tissue paper or my gift tissue paper above it. That gives me an idea of where I need my glue up to. Now the good thing about glue stick is once you put it on, once it's dry, it doesn't remain sticky anymore, which is a great thing. Once it's dried off, if it doesn't stick to my glue stick, once it's dried off, it's thoroughly dried off and there's no problems with it. I just make sure there's a nice coating all the way over my page, because you never know, I may be sticking something on top of this then. This is kind of a do it once deal. So when you put it down, I advise don't try lifting it up again. Rub it down with your fingers, or gift card, door key, whatever you're using at the time. And that's how I've done that. I let it dry and then I'll just tidy off the ends. If you've got any pieces coming up, it's going to come up at the edges. Just take your finger and run it over the edges to make sure you haven't got a problem. So right, let's put, trying to find out, come to me you. There you go. It's stuck to the existing glue. Right. So again, just using that as a guide. It is only a rough guide, but it's easier to do it this way and glue your pages than it is to actually struggle trying to put glue on the back of gift wrap tissue, which is probably going to just deteriorate for you as you're trying to get the glue on it, and then it'll stick to itself, then it'll tear. Believe me, this is a voice of experience speaking to you. I've been through it and I know, trust me, this is easier. So coming up, putting my edge down. Now, if you do have a bit of a wrinkle and you're quite quick, you can lift this up without it tearing. So just smooth that down. Now, this isn't going to take long to dry, and I would say don't try trimming the spare tissue off until it is dry. So I'm going to put that up there. Okay, I just turned around and realised I hadn't even told you about how to do these. So let's do this now, because this also gets put into the signature. These are just a couple of Christmas card envelopes from last year's Christmas list that didn't get used for some reason, and I just think it's a handy way of doing something. So right, we want to put these into the signature of our journal. So what I tend to do is I tend to fold back one of the flaps, and then I line up the two edges. Now, you do not want to glue this section, because if you glue this section, it's going to glue here, which will make your pocket shrink. What you need to do is you need to basically glue just along where the glue edge is. Now, you can do it with a glue stick. You could do it with a tape runner, I suppose. I'm going to use art glitter glue for mine, purely because it's got a thin nozzle and I can just use it that way. So make sure I line this up correctly. There you go, just a little bit of art glitter glue. It doesn't take much to get the art glitter glue on here. And fold it over and press it down, and it will seal down quite quickly. Flip it over, open it out, and that'll do the same reverse. Now you could just moisten this glue strip, but I have found if I do that, sometimes with the passing of time, that glue isn't meant to be something that's glued for a very long time. I've known things come unstuck if it's really humid, so I tend not to take that risk. So again, glue that down. So effectively, I've now got one big pocket that's folded in the middle, and it's really nice and robust to go into my journal cover. Something you are going to need to do is to trim the top off. If you want to trim the top off for a pocket, put my pin back in my glue. There you go. But you do have choices here. You could have top loading pockets. You could have side loading pockets. Thing I would think about is, if this is the size of your signature, where are you putting this when it's in there? Now, if you have a top loading pocket, that's fine. You can have a side loading pocket, it's fine. It will only protrude a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is just pull in my trimmer again. I keep calling it a trimmer. We all know it's a guillotine. So slide that in. Now, a couple of things to be aware of. As you work in your journal, this is really lovely, this is a bit ugly. This is the sort of place that I would put something onto it, maybe more gift wrap, maybe something like a decorative element, maybe a book page. Even this is perfect if you've got an existing greetings card. One second. So there you go. If I've got a greetings card and I put that on there, I could put that on as a tuck or a pocket. It's a blank Christmas card. I may well do that actually. It looks quite nice on there. And what I would do is I would cut this part off, and we'll talk about greetings cards in a little while. So, right, so that's the last element. So now we're going to take a little break while I sort stuff out, and then we'll come back and I'll sew in that signature. So now we're at one of the fun bits. We've got all our pages folded. I need to check they're in the right orientation. Well, let's just do a quick check of how many. Now this one, I've trimmed it, but I'm still letting it dry because this is a bit sticky. So that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I've got a bag and I've got a double envelope. Okay, I'm happy with that. So let's leave these to one side a second. Now this is the fun bit where you get to arrange the pages, because once they're in, they're committed. We also need to remember which direction we're in. Now I really like that, and I think that as my starting page is going to look absolutely beautiful. So I'm starting with that one. So that's my first open page. Let's see. I want to go coffee dyed, I think. Let's see what a bit of coffee dyed. Now, coffee dyed is okay, but other than that. So I've got the green on there. If I put that in there, it will follow across. So I'm going to put my graph paper in there. Now, what I would say is when you get to the center, don't have thin paper in the very, very center fold, because you're going to hit a problem. It's not going to be fun. It could tear. Right, that's just a plain bit of white. I think I want the plain bit of white against there. Then I'm going to pull in some coffee dye paper. Is this one just plain coffee? A bit more of the mistletoe paper. Let's go into Santa Claus can go in there. Now, once I've got this together, I'll be going back and adding other stuff. So there's the music paper. I like that in there. Right, that's sort of a creamy colour. I don't want more music next to it. Oh, wait, that's not music, but no, I think that'd be too much there. Let's pull in one of these. Right, Santa, how far away was Santa? We'll have a look in a moment. Right, I'm going to put this music in here now. Now, I want to avoid putting this thin piece in the very centre, so that can go there. So I've got these 3, plus I've got this. And I think I want this as my centre. So I've just had music, so let's put coffee dyed in. I might fold that the other way, actually. Quite like the idea of that being on the centre of the spine as it opens up. Then music. Then that's the central one, right. So that's quite a lot of papers in there, the amount that we were looking for. Now I need to think where the brown paper is going to go and where the double envelope is going to go. So I'm looking for something that's red, like something like there would work, or something that's got Santas on this side of the page. Actually, that might be very nice for there. Right, I like that. That can go in there. Okay, Santas. I have no real method as to where I'm putting things. Maybe not. Maybe the brown paper would be a better idea. Okay, is there anything on this side? No, okay. Well, I think we've done it. So this would be our signature. Now, the saying, check twice, cut once, actually goes for sewing in as well. So I want to make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be in the right orientation. So if I turn this as if I'm looking through it, I can now see where the pops of colour are, where the decorated papers are, where the music is. I'm thinking actually I want music in there. Let's see if I can pull one of the musics out from back here. I know there were a couple of musics. Let's do that music out of there. It's okay to change your mind, guys. Completely okay to change your mind. There you go. Let's start that again. It's just sometimes you get a feel for what looks right. So see, we've got lots of plain paper, because I can guarantee when you first start this, you're going to be all excited and write loads of stuff. So you need spare paper. Yeah, I'm liking this better now that it's getting... We've got plain papers. I'm okay with that. We've got coloured in here. Remember, we've still got ephemera to make and tuck spots and pockets and things like that. Right, everything seems to be in the right orientation. I like the ending there. Now, the only thing I need to be wary of is, where's it gone? Where's the bag? Right, we need to make sure the bag is central, because when we sew in, we want to make sure that we're sewing so we're catching the bag at least once. Right, now, this is a good example. Remember I said it would creep out? As you can see, it creeps out along there. Now, you can cut that down if you choose. It depends on whether it sticks out of the journal cover for me as to whether I cut it down. It does stick out here, so I think I'm going to trim that down, but I'll trim that down now before I actually start putting stuff into the journal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to press the center down as hard as I can. I'm just going to get a ruler and just push down so I know that everything is right the way into the center. I'm then going to come in. I'm going to clip this. Now, I couldn't have made my cover any wider because, of course, it was a 12-inch paper, 12-inch cardstock. However, I can extend my cover by adding lace to the edge of these pages. Then it wouldn't look wrong if it's sticking out. But me being me, I want to trim that down. So let me just get a cutting board and a sharp knife. Right, one cutting board, and I'm certainly not cutting on here straight away. I'm going to bring this in. Now, I'm going to use a steel edge ruler and line it up along the edge of the very first page. Be careful if you're using a blade, please. I mean, if you're someone who's a quilter, I've used my rotary cutter before now with a lot of success. So I'm just going to line that up so it's up against the edge of that page. And then slowly is a way to do this. Keep real good pressure down and just run the blade along here and just keep running it along until it's all off. Sometimes you may have to come in from the other side because sometimes the very last few pages tend to not cut properly. Oh, they did cut properly that time. So there you go. So that's how I now make my journal signature fit directly inside my cover. I don't mind if bits stick out when I'm using ephemera, but I quite like to keep the pages all enclosed. So I'll just clear the decks a little bit. So now we're on to the next stage, which is sewing in. Now, I'm going to unclip these. You will need 4 of these, or bulldog clips, or any clamps you've got that you normally use. I'm going to open this up in the center. And I'm going to line it up with the center of my journal. Now, I tend to eyeball. I tend to make sure it's equidistant from the top and bottom. You could come in with a ruler and measure this, but to be honest with you, it's a December daily. I'm not overly bothered whether it's absolutely centralized or not in this instance, because I know this journal is going to grow. There's going to be stuff in it all over the place. Now, I'm pressing down and putting them, what I call this kitty corner opposite. I want to make sure that this spine is pushed all the way into the back of the spine. The spine of the signature is pushed all the way back to the spine of the cover. Now, I tend to do one and then I will double check it. And if I have to undo another side, just to get that tucked in as tightly as possible, I will do. It's important to get it in tightly now because then it won't be loose later. So I've now got this all sorted, ready to go. Now, I'm using an old book. As you can see, this book is well loved, well stabbed, and well pushed through. This is what I pierce my holes in. There is something called a book cradle out there, where you sit the book in this plastic or wooden cradle and you punch your holes through. I've always done it this way, and it's one of those instances, if it works, it works. Now I'm going to use, this is an awl, AWL. You've seen me do this before if you watched this channel. I'm going to go directly down through roughly the centre. I'm not measuring, all the way through, pull it out. I'm going to move it down so I'm pushing into the book and not my board. Come down about 1/2 inch from the top. Repeat the action from the bottom, about 1/2 inch from the bottom. Push through. Now I am likely to, I'm just going to make sure the holes are wide enough on this side as well. I am likely to put lace down the spine of this, but you don't need to. I'm probably going to, because I like the aesthetic of that. I like the way it looks. Now I'm going to use some thick thread. You can buy waxed thread, you can buy linen thread, you can buy whichever thread you want. I want to say, where's my other one? I actually sewed this one with twine. So whatever you choose to do, just make sure that it's robust enough. Now, I use 4 lengths because I sew double, I don't sew single. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's my scissors gone? And snip it off. Again, there are umpteen different ways of sewing it in. I'm using a basic 3-hole pamphlet stitch for this. There are so many different ways of actually sewing in a signature. There are so many different versions of binding a book. I would say look at Nick the Booksmith for book binding hints and tips. She's wonderful, and I think it's NIK the Booksmith on YouTube. Wonderful lady, knows lots about bookbinding. So I've got my double thread. I'm going to go from the inside to the outside, pull it through until I can just hold the ends of the thread at the base of my cover, because I don't want to lose those all the way through. Then I'm going to come back in through the bottom hole. Come on, in you go. There you go. And pull it reasonably tight but not overly taut. Now, the reason I'm holding this thread quite tight here is I want to go in at a slight angle. I don't want to pierce the threads that are already there, or I will never be able to tighten this spine up. So going out through there, I'm going to come, I can release that now. I'm going to come back in through the top. Where are you? There you go. So I've got all my threads on the inside now. Make sure the outside you don't have any knots or tangles. I'm going to bring this down, thread it through its existing. So now I've got thread on either side of the central cord. So I'm now going to give this a little bit of a tug just to make sure that it's tight. Don't pull it so tight that you actually rip the signature itself. Give it a bit of a tight. These should be reasonably tight. Over time, sometimes they get loose. But if you start off tight, you're fine. And then I give it a double knot. And I'm leaving the strings dangling. You can tie them in a bow. You can tie charms onto them. I'm leaving them dangle because I don't know what I want to do. When I get to this point in the December daily, maybe I'll put a Christmas tag on them or something. Or maybe I'll put a gift tag. Or maybe there'll be a couple of little bits of something that have arrived in a gift that I'll use. So there you go. So we're now sewn in. We've got this down the spine. It's quite invisible in this case, but that's fine. So this is our signature done, guys. So basically you could stop here and not follow this video anymore because you know where to go next. With me, I'm just going to put the spine on here. I've got a piece of, let's open this up. I've got this cream bit of lace. I was looking for white, couldn't find it. And I'm just going to stick that down the centre. So let's give that a bit of a, where's that scissors gone again? Now, for sticking fabric to anything, I would always recommend Fabri-Tac. Now, I do know, because Gail Augustinelli has shared it, that Art Glitter Glue now does a fabric glue. I've never seen it. I don't seem to see anywhere in my shops over here. So I'm still sticking with Fabri-Tac. So my method for this is I'm going to put a line of Fabri-Tac right down the middle of the spine. This will have a couple of uses. First of all, it will glue the fabric lace onto it. Secondly, it will secure all of those threads in place and the knots. So I like to do that first and then lay my lace down the spine, and then at least I know it's where I need it to be. Once it's in place and it's straight, I then go in and I'll put a little bit of glue all the way down the sides. Run my finger down. Is that going to be straight? That's another reason I quite like Fabri-Tac. There's a little bit of wiggle time with it. Right, and then come in on the other side and do the same thing. Now, as we're working, I will periodically check this is still sticking down. It would be nice if it was actually centered vertically as well. There you go. So, right. Now, I can trim the edges off at the end if I really think they need it, but currently I don't. So I'm not going to fold my book closed because that will just encourage the spine lace to open. I'm going to sit it like this so that everything is in contact. And I'm just going to let it sit a while and think about itself. Okay, so that's going to one side, guys. I'm going to clear the decks and then we'll look at how I'm going to utilize something to make ephemera and pieces to go in this. Now, unfortunately, I've used all of last year's Christmas cards already, so I had to raid our supply in the attic and came up with some that I do have already. Always a good stash of envelopes, loving that. And I happened to find this box, which I love the box actually. I think this box may actually become something. It's even got a little magnetic closure, I think. My labels could end. I might have to collage over that. Anyway, I digress. This kit's got 4 different patterns in it, so I'm just going to pull the whole kit out. I'm going to put all of the envelopes to one side because we're not going to be working at envelopes. We're only going to be looking at the ephemera. Now, this is an inexpensive way to make ephemera for your December daily. And when I say inexpensive, I mean inexpensive because you're recycling old Christmas cards. If you've not got old Christmas cards, you can just grab any card stock that you wish to make these with. So I'm just trying to split them into designs so I know what we've got. Right, so we're just going to be working with these. So this is my starting point for, okay, what am I going to do this year as far as pockets and tags and stuff go? Now, if these bits are written in, that's fine. As I said, you can collage over them, but this is quite a nice cardstock and I will use it for other things anyway. Let's move those to one side and think about the sort of stuff we actually need for our journal. So let's start with these. Okay, I'm going to bring in my guillotine. So these are obviously wonderful size and shape for a long tag. Okay, that's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I could back them with cardstock, or I could just glue them together and then it's got that thickness. Completely up to you, but that's something to look forward to. So I'm going to cut at the backs off a couple of these because I've got ideas for a few of these, to be honest with you. So, right, now these don't get thrown away. These go into our scrap pile because I could fold this, collage it, make it a journaling card. I could just collage this and make it for a journaling card for any time of the year, or a tuck spot or something. So let's just leave the guillotine there because I'm going to need it. Right. These are obviously tags. Where have I put the tops? Those are the ones, right? These are the spares. So these are perfect for making tags out of. I'm going to grab my little plastic gadget, which is how I cut the angles on on a tag. Yes, someone has asked me whether I'll show a video of how I made this. I will. It's in the to-do list, or on the to-do list. I promise you, I just haven't got round to it yet. So just by snipping the corners off this, I'm making a tag. That means that's a tag that go into a big pocket later on. That's not a problem. And I'm actually going to make another one because I've got a feeling I want 2 of these in here. And the other one is going to be a belly band type of thing for the journal. We're going to be putting on the envelope, I believe. Right, so that's 2 tags almost. Oh, look, it's even got a snowflake, exactly where I need the hole to go. Right, we'll put those to one side. We'll work with those when we get around to doing it. Now, these again would make a great little thing in there. I foresee this as a tuck spot or a side pocket. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to take this off here. Ooh, let's do it this way around actually. So I've got a flat edge to cut against. This again, recycled. This bit. Now, if I want this on a page as a tuck, I want the person to know it's a tuck spot. So I'm going to use my circle cutter, come in, and I'm taking a notch out of it. So that means that's now a tuck spot. So, right. Is there anything else on there I could use? I could probably, I wonder, having a thoughtful moment. Bear with me a minute. I'm just going to cut the edge of this down. I need to cut it this way. I'm wondering whether I can mirror that shape and make this into a shaped tag, and I think I can. Right, let's get a scissors out. Probably not the best scissors in the world. I don't know where my fussy cut ones are. So we're just going to cut. Am I in shot? Oops, nearly not in shot. I hope I was in shot for everything else, so I'm going to be really annoyed at that. Right. I do apologise if I wasn't in shot. It's just unfortunate. It's hard when you're trying to work and then you're not really looking through the camera. There you go, I can live with that. That's a shaped one, that's another tag. Okay, let's put that out the way. That goes into the scrap. Now, I think we're done with these because I think I've done enough of those because I've got 2. Yeah, I've got enough of these. I think those will go over to one side. Let's look at the other ones I've got. Right, this is really pretty. Really, really pretty. I can see a tag in this. I might be able to see 2 tags actually. If I come in and I slice right down the line of there. Let's turn this over. It's learning to look at what is actually here. Because there you go. With love this Christmas. That is now a tag. So I think I'm going to take a smaller nick off the edges of this. Am I still in shot? I keep veering over to one side. I'm sorry, guys. So that's another tag ready to go. Now this one, I quite like this one. I'm thinking this could actually become a journal card. So I like to round the corners of my journal cards. So I'm just going to come in with this corner rounder, take the corners off this. And this is, oops, why aren't you cutting? Sometimes they need a little bit of a, there you go, a little bit of encouragement. Right, so there you go, that's a journal card. It's nice and clean on the back. I like that idea, and I think I'm going to make that into another tuck spot. Again, this goes into future fodder. I could cut that out and actually use it on a page as a pocket. That way, I might do that in a bit. We'll have a think about that. Right, I did really like this. And I'm wondering, can I take it off just under the wording without injuring the deer? I can do that. Okay, now I know this is probably not the width of my page, but that doesn't bother me because my pockets don't need to be exactly the width of the page. Let me just check though, just want to make sure that I'm not deceiving myself. Oh, actually it's wider than my pocket. Okay, that's, oh, I got this right way up ahead. So I can take that pink bit off the edge, and this would fit on a page as a pocket. Actually, I need to take more than that off it. Let's take a little bit off the other end instead. Right, so I'm going to come in. I'm going to take a little bit of a notch out of there to tell someone it's a pocket, and that's a pocket. Right, what happened to the rest of it? What have I got here? I could get away with that as being another pocket. That goes into recycling. Right, that could become a pocket. I'm wondering whether I want to take that off because I don't want too many repetitions of the same thing. That's a nice little journal card. Again, going to come in, take off the pieces. Now, all of the things I'm doing here, you could obviously embellish further. Like that would look lovely with a label on and maybe a flower sticker that's maybe a poinsettia or something. That could make a small tag. Actually, it's going to make a small tag. So let's take just the nearest ends, corners of those. There. There you go. That's a nice little tag we can do. We're putting holes in things later. That's just a bit of scrap. Okay, I think currently I've done enough with these. I've used two of them. Don't need to overkill because there'll be loads of them in there. Right, let's look at the next one in here. That's quite nice. Okay, right, if I come in this way, and I come right down the side of the words, and I come in this way, right down the edge of that Christmas, and come in here and take that last piece off. Again, gets collaged later in the year. So what have I created here? Okay, first of all, I've given myself a Happy Christmas tag. Now there are loads of tags because I use loads of tags. That's a lovely little tag. These make two great pockets. Now they could be side tucks, they could be bottom pockets. I'm not sure. We're going to have to see where they fit on the page when I do them. But just as a reminder to me, I now know these are tuck spots. Right, there's another thing I want to do with this one, and I'm just going to put the spares to one side because I think we've exhausted that almost. I'm going to trim this down so that I'm absolutely just at the edges of the wreath, because I think I might need a large journaling card if I can do a tuck spot out, a belly band out of the red envelopes. So that makes a really nice journal card. Going to come in, snip off the edges. So that's a nice journal card. Now the thing I'm thinking of, if we look, that would slide into that if that's a belly band on that bag. No, let's remember journal cards, but move on to another design. Right, this one here. For me, immediately I can see two things. First of all, I'm going to take off the back. Now, of course, if you're working with recycled Christmas cards, you're going to have a huge variety of Christmas cards because of the ones you've received. For me, I'm using stuff that I've got in the house, which is unfortunate because I had a really nice supply of Christmas cards last year, but I've used them all. Right, this line here really tells me that's a perfect place to cut. So I'm going to come right down the centre there. That's going to give me another tag. Snip that off there. Another tag. Hopefully this isn't boring, but as I said, I always try to do stuff that where someone who's never done a journal before, this is your first time, this is fabulous. Okay, that could be a tuck spot. Actually, I'm going to make that tuck spot. That would make a nice tuck spot. So if I come in and I just do that, that can be a tuck on the side of a page. I would like to create one large journal card, and I think I'm going to be able to do it with this one. If I just come down the edges of Season's Greetings, that goes into the spare card pile, and take the bottom off this, and take the top to the top of the design. That's another nice journal card. So that now will tuck within one of those size ones there. So again, just going to come in. I'm making a heck of a mess of my work surface. Sorry about this. That one didn't cut properly. That did. So that's another journal card. I think I've exhausted this design. Right. I've got this one now. I'm also building up a little scrap pile over here, guys. These don't get thrown away. You'd be surprised when a little strip of something like that really works. So let's take the back off this one and see what I can make this into. I think I need to come up with a few more tucks and a few more pockets, because I've got a feeling we're going to have a load of tags and nowhere to stuff them. Right. If I take the bottom of this off, just above the Mary, then if I do my little notch out of there, just so it takes out that main stem, that's good for the bottom of a page, and that can have something tucked into it. That's actually a really nice journal card. I like to cut it down ever so slightly. Just trim off the very bottom of it and the very side of it. There's going to be some nice writing space in this. Now, I say writing space. Writing space is also real estate where you can stick things. So say you were given a gift tag that you really liked, you could actually stick it to the back of this and right next to it as well. So that's a really nice journal card. I do need another tuck spot, I think. Maybe another 2 tuck spots if I'm looking at this correctly. Right, let's take the front of this one off. And then after this, guys, we'll go and stick these in. And I can actually see where we're at in the journal and whether we need to do anything more. Right, I'm going to take the Merry Christmas off here. Not sure whether I want to keep it or not for that pile, so I'm going to put it there just in case. Right, I'm thinking I'd like a couple of corner tucks, so I'm going to cut the Christmas tree right down the middle of the Christmas tree. Now I'm thinking corner tucks on the side of a page, and if I do them this direction, that makes the half tree useful. I'm going to take a larger round. Okay, why are you playing silly so-and-sos? That's better. Okay, so I've rounded that corner, and I'm going to round this corner. That worked perfectly that time. Okay, and I'm going to keep these 3 because I can always stick an entire Christmas card into this journal if I choose. Right, give me 2 minutes, need to clear the decks, and then we'll start working on sticking stuff in. Right, here's the journal. This is, I'd say, as near as darn it dry, so I'm not going to worry about that sticking to anything. We've got our journal ready to go. I want to make sure I've got it in the right orientation, which I do because of Father Christmas the right way up. Don't forget we had these as well. These are good for pockets on the inside of the cover. I could even make further pockets on the inside of this, so we've got those in reserve should we need them. So I'm going to be using art glitter glue, and I'm going to work my way through. Now I'm going to look first and divide these up into tuck spots and pockets and tags. So that's tuck, pocket, tuck, tuck, undecided, so that's going to go to one side, journal card, tuck, journal card, tuck, tag, journal card. Was this my belly band? I think that was my belly band. Tuck, tag, tag, journal card, tuck, journal card, tag, tag pocket, and these were 2 tags. Okay, right, let's put, excuse my arm a second, let's put the tags to one side and see where I can locate stuff. Now, I know I'm going to have to cut stuff down because I'm sure half of this is going to be too wide. Now, the first thing I want to know is this is going to go on that red envelope. So I planned for it to go there, so let's just put that there. Now, I'm using art glitter glue because it's probably the strongest glue I've got for a really quick grab. I'm probably a little heavy-handed with my art glitter glue. Other people seem to use less. I'm always worried things are going to come unstuck. Right, press it down for a second. Now this is going to be the perfect place to slip in a journal card. And don't forget, these are going to need journal cards as well. So that's one of those in there. Right, I've got that one in the front. I want to put this one somewhere in the back. Oh, I wonder. Why not make it a tuck in there? Okay, that wasn't my intent, but it seems to work perfectly because it's red on red. So I'm coming down 3 sides here because this is a tuck and not a belly band. And stick that, and that actually then addresses the issue that the back of the envelope was looking not the best. So right, burnish that down a bit. It grabs really, really quickly, but I would probably spend a little bit longer than I am there. Right, where are those tuck spots that I like the look of? Right, tuck spots. Now, I don't necessarily need them opposite in that way, but I might have one in the front of the signature and one in the back. Now, I think I'd like to put, I think I'm not going to put it on the graph paper because I think the graph paper may just be, I don't want to use the word flimsy, but I'm going to use the word flimsy. I would use the graph paper purely for writing upon. I think I'm going to stick that on there. Or would it look good on a music page? Come on, Mr. Music Page. Actually, I quite like that on there. Right, I'm going to put this on 2 sides. Now, you could edge your pages with lace, which I think I've already said. Why am I not in the center? Okay. You could trim the pages with extra strips of paper, whatever you wish. Right, let's find the other side of that one, which is around about here somewhere. I don't think it's that one. Is it that one? Not that I'm overly pedantic about them being absolutely opposite, but that's the one I'm looking for. Okay, this is a nice place for it. Again, I'm going to glue down the 2 sides. Now, a good tip Gail Augustinelli has, which I'll share with you. Sorry, Gail and I are really good friends, which is why I always keep quoting her. She always grips the bit that doesn't need the glue, because that way you don't glue the bit that doesn't need the glue. So, right, that's in that side. Now, let's come to the middle and work our way out from here. Now, I quite like the idea of having one of these in here. Gonna need to trim that down a bit, I think, which is fine. But I'm going to trim it down by hand. Normally I would trim it down on my guillotine, but I think we've had enough of hearing the guillotine slicing through stuff. So I think that'll look absolutely lovely there. Right, Gail's theory, keep your thumb where you don't need to glue. And stick that on there. Now, because, oh, don't stick the string underneath. Now, because I'm sticking it to the tissue is fully stuck to the page, I'm not worried that it's going to come off. Right, so I've got one in the front. Let's move somewhere nearer the back. and put something in the back. Possibly there. Let's put one of these in there. Right, I'm going to have to do a bit of snipping on this one. There you go, 3 sides of this. And pop that at the bottom of that page. So see, quite quickly we're filling up the journal with real estate to be decorated. Like I put this on here like this. This is just crying out for a little motif there, or a little label or something. But when I write this day, part of recording this day may be recording like, okay, this is probably around the 30th or 31st. Maybe if I tucked in a bit of coffee dye paper in there, that could be my list of Christmas cards to give the following year. So stuff like that. Right, I've got another one of these. So I've got one at the back. Let's flip all the way to the front again and see what I've got, if anything, at the front. I think I want to put this here. Merry Christmas. That's a nice way to start the journal. So let's just snip these off. I have no idea how long this video is, guys. I'm just doing it. I'd rather not split this into 2 videos. So do feel free to fast forward, stop, go make a cup of tea, have a choggy biscuit, make a cup of coffee, even have a sleep and come back the next day. It's just easier if you're watching a video to return to it than to find the part 2 half the time. And I speak from experience because goodness knows I watch quite a few videos myself. Right, I've got a side tuck here which I really like, and I've got this one that could be a bottom or a side tuck in whichever way I want. I think it's going to be a side tuck. I think I'd like a side tuck in the front of here. So let's see how is this working. So I've got tuck, space, 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 tuck, space, tuck, space, 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 tuck, space. I think I need to put one in here. That page is quite blank. Let's put this one on it. Now, you could decorate these pages further by stenciling onto them. You could stick more gift wrap onto them when they're in here, if that's what you choose. You could use napkins on there, anything along those lines. I think I want this one in the back, if I put that one in the front. And actually, I think I'd like to stick it over the top of the word notes, because notes is written on the side and I have this aversion to seeing writing on the side. Don't know why, it's a personal thing. I've seen some beautiful journals with the pages on the side. It's just, I struggle sometimes accepting those. I just like to see things the correct orientation. But then, as I said before, that's probably my OCD and everything to go with it. Right, I'm going to do a quick count. I wonder, that could be a belly band, couldn't it? Like a belly band that way. Let's do that. Right. Let's chop it down to be a decent size, because I can slip a tag into that. Right, let's see where we're at as far as how many in each side of the signature. So I've got 1, 2, 3, call that 4, 5, 6. Right, what's in the other side? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to put it in this half, I think. And I'm wondering whether might go well on there. There you go. Right, I think I'd like to put another couple of pockets or tucks into this, purely because I know from experience when I use a December daily, I have lots of stuff to stick in, like receipts and thank you notes, and sometimes I keep the entire special Christmas card if I want a special Christmas card kept. Right, I think we're doing well. I think we've got some really nice accent pieces in here. I think what I want to do now is cut up some of these, put a little on my glue, it's going to seize up on me. And I think I want to make a couple of pockets to go in here out of the extra card stock from the, what am I trying to say, from the cover itself. So let's pull in Mr. Guillotine again. So we know that this is about 8 1/4, but I'm going to mark it anyway. Excuse my shoulder. A little bit shy. Let's pop that through, chop that. And as I've got that one, I can make this one the same. Sorry, I'm almost out of shot, aren't I? Okay, so that's those two ready to go in there. And I think let's put this by. And these two will just become 2 more little journal cards. So I'm just going to round the corners. Ooh, it doesn't like going through two. Oh, don't do that. It doesn't like going through 2 thicknesses. I couldn't tell you how long I've had this rounded punch. I do need something I've seen when I was in the States is one of those what they're called corner rounding chompers, and I really wanted one, but I just on the day I was supposed to go to buy it, I was in Chicago at the time, and it wasn't a good day, and we just decided not to leave the apartment, to be honest with you. Right, I'm going to come in and give this a bit of a notch here. Sorry about the noise. So I can now find places for these two, and these would be quite nice bigger pieces. So let's come down here, right. So let's see, and also I've got the other side as well, depending on what side I want to put down, which is probably going to be that because I've got lots of white pages in here. Again, I'm avoiding putting stuff onto the graph paper because it's not a very robust page. I quite like that one actually. Not that side, obviously. That would look quite nice on there. Right, where's the art glitter glue gone? So hopefully anyone who's doing a December daily for the very first time, I hope this has been helpful. I've tried to keep the supplies to a minimum, and I've also tried to keep the supplies to things that you're likely to have in your house anyway, or at least to be able to easily get your hands on. I mean, it's the very end of November here, or near enough the end of November here. So Christmas cards are already in the shops, wrapping papers already in the shops. If you didn't have any left from last year, then at least you can pop out, go to your pound store, go to your dollar store and see what they've actually got in there. Right, I quite like it there, but I'm going to just do a quick flick through because I've got one already there. I'm wondering whether this page needs it. That would be quite nice there. So, and then we'll fill these pockets, and then I think that's pretty much going to be it. We will have created what I would call a semi-naked December daily. As I said, from my own experience, I like to decorate the ephemera and the pages on the day I'm writing it, because then it reflects me. And also, you never know what's going to come through the post. You never know who's going to send you what. You don't know whether you're going to have a special box of chocolates who's got a little gift tag in that suddenly becomes a tag for your journal. Right, let that sit for a second. Let's come through here. Now, when it comes to journal cards are literally journal cards. When it comes to tags, I very often put a hole in the top with a hole punch or a slot punch. If you've got a hole in, you can obviously tie red ribbon through them, white, any ribbon. even organza ribbon, and that sticks out the top of the journal, which is always lovely. I want to make sure it wasn't too tall. That was another tag. But your tags don't need to have a hole punched. I'm not going to hole punch that one. Journal card, journal card. I quite like the idea of this one having a hole in it. That one looks cute enough to have a hole in it. I think those are as is. Right. I think first of all, I'm going to go through and find out where I need to put the large journal cards, because there may be a need for me to actually cut another one. I've got a feeling I'm one large journal card short, but we'll see. So, I mean, I could just put a folded piece of coffee dye paper in as well. Okay, this was going to be a journal card. That's nice, but see, this should also have a journal card. Actually, 1 minute. I think for these pockets, I'm just going to take a piece of coffee dyed paper, fold it into 4 quarters, and slide it into this pocket, because I know when I was writing my journal, I really did welcome the fact that there was spare paper. So let's find the other half of this and do the same over here. So there's a heck of a lot of writing space in one of these journals. And we hopefully have enough places in the journal to glue things in, to clip things on, to stick things in, so that's there. So that means, actually let's put this in there, that's Season's Greetings. No, it's going to stick out too far. Where's another journal card? That's a nice journal card. Will you go in there? Yes, you will. Perfect. Right, let's start at the beginning again then and work my way through. Now, I could swap stuff around as we go. We'll see. So that's got a Merry Christmas on it already. I quite like that in there because it's like a doorway into my journal. That's quite nice. It needs something that's a little colourful, I feel. Num, 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 num. Let's put that in there. I quite like blue and pink together. There we go. Tuck spot. Tuck spot needs a something larger. Let's put one of these in there. That looks too samey. Okay, let's put something else. I've already done the door. This was in the back, so let's put this one in the front. Okay, coming through, that's already filled. This needs a something. I wonder one of these will go in there actually. That'd be quite nice in there. Right, we've got the bag. That can go in there. Should I put something on there? We'll think about that. If I've got a spare something, maybe I'll stick something, but I can decorate that up on the day, as I've said. This needs a something. That would be nice in there. This is turning into a very pale looking journal, which I'm happy about because most of my things are very brightly coloured. So I'm quite happy that this is not as brightly coloured as normal. I know this can go in here because this is at the front of the other page. This needs a something. I don't want to put that in there. I want to put that in there. Maybe I don't want to put that in there. Let me have a think about that. I should remember there's one I haven't done. Let's start at the back and move forward. Actually, looking at that, that is where that needs to go. With love, Merry Christmas. That makes sense to me. Right, let's start from the back. So I've got this. Let's stick that in there. Now, as I said, I'm leaving lots of space because I would normally put 3 things at a time in there, but I'm not here because I want to make sure that I've got room for other things. Blue and pink, quite like, because as I said, there's other stuff you can be adding. Right, tuck spot there. That doesn't look right. We'll sort something out different for that. That's already decorated. That's got stuff. That needs a something. Maybe that does need that. I don't like that there. Right, let me just pull in my ephemera box, see if there's anything that I've got that I can just grab for and put in here as well. I've got ephemera stuff here. I've just got some half decorated prep tag stuff. Sorry, you're not going to see much because of the light on this. I want to stay quite light with the stuff that goes in here. Where are we going? I'm trying to find, I had a few tags. These are the one. Okay, I've got tags like this that would actually go in there quite nicely because they're just generic tags. I'm trying to stay away from pre-decorated because I like to decorate as I go. Is that okay? No, I don't like that green. Oh, actually, I've got some of these. I wonder whether these would look quite nice in here. I quite like some of these. Right, let's have a think. If I've got 4 of those, let's put 4 of them. Actually, let's put 3 of those and 3 of those. Right. That's just giving me more tag space to write upon. And it gives me larger things because I looked like I was missing larger things. And let's pull in the big mama of them and have a look if I've got anything that would fit in that's almost journal card size. Let's see what we've got here. That's a bit pumpkin-y. It's got pumpkins on it. That's not a good idea, is it? That's too flowery. I don't mind a couple of those. That one might be okay. I don't associate butterflies with Christmas, so have to avoid those. Oh, I know, those are nice. Those are the woven tags I saw that Gail did. I think that'll be enough. I don't want to overladen this, as I said. I'll just pop those back in there. Oh, have I got any nicely coloured cards? Not really Christmas colours, okay. Right, let's pop that box back. I need to refill that too. I'm running a little low. Okay, so let's see if we can accommodate some more stuff. Right, that, would the big one go in there? Perfect, right, that goes in there. Right, there were a few spots in here that I wanted something bigger in. I like that, that sort of complements that. Let's flip to the front. Actually, now I'm not using those for this. I can use this for that, if all of that makes sense. Right, let's flip to the back again. That could do with a something. There you go, that's nice. That was okay, actually. Should I put something behind to offset that? Yeah, that little bit of brown. And it's got music on, so that complements the music. That was okay. Oh, that was the one I did. Actually, that could do with one of these behind it as well, to give it a bit of contrast. I think we might have done this. Let me just move these to one side. I'll use them if I can use them. I'm not going to force the issue though. That seems like a lot in that pocket. Ah, this could do with the something. There you go. If you want to know how to do those woven tags, I can't remember exactly which video it is, but it's one of the things that Gail does, and she uses strips to weave with, and it's a very clever idea. So if I can find the video, I'll find it for you, but I can't guarantee I will. You know, I'm kind of wishing I had something on that. I'm kind of wishing that was... Do I mind it sticking out? Right, bear with me. Just going to have a quick slice of that one. I've got an idea. Just going to take it down. So I've cut that one off. Or cut it in half anyway. Bring this in. Give it a bit of a chomp. And then that can go onto there as a further pocket. That fits nicely on there. Hold it down for a second. See if I can put the pin back in the glue one-handed. Probably not. Yay, bingo. Okay, it's a good day. I can do that. Right, so what's in this pocket already? Nothing. That came out of that pocket. Okay, do I mind there's nothing in that pocket? I kind of do. Right, I think I'm going to cut this down. Cut the tag top off it. Give it a little bit of vintage photo just to make it match the rest. And all of a sudden, it's a journal card. Voila! So that can go into the bag itself. And this little tag can stick into here. That's nice. That's okay. No, I quite like that in there. See, this is where I would further embellish this. This is crying out for like a Father Christmas or something, but I might have one on the day. Let's stick another one of these in here. I think 2 tags is better than 1 tag. More writing real estate. I wonder. Quite like that in there. And there was something over here I was going to pop one into. I quite like that in with that. All right, one more tag. See, oh, I haven't got anything in that one. There you go. And it's music. Oh, let's have a change of heart. Let's pull you out of there. Pop you in behind there because you're the right colours. And I quite like the little deer poking its head out. Okay, we're done. So hopefully you enjoyed that. As far as closing it, as you saw with mine, I literally tied a ribbon around it. It made absolutely perfect sense to do that. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it gives you some inspiration to get your own December daily done. If you're working on a budget, this is really quite an inexpensive way to do it. If you're using last year's Christmas cards, and I always recommend save your Christmas cards. They're good cardstock. Even if you collage over them and make other ephemera for other times of the year. Perfect cardstock for that. So I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter, signing off for now. Until next time. Bye-bye, guys.